spaceexplr episode, another great astrophotographer. We're going to be talking about different stuff, again, mainly focusing on astrophotography today, and about some exciting projects that this man is currently working on. So today with us is ERIK PIRTALA. He's a 23-year-old astrophotographer from Finland. Ever since he got his first telescope, which was 11 years old, he's been totally addicted to gazing upwards. He's, as far as he says, he's relatively new to astrophotography, where he bought his so-called real scope in 2018, and his it's been a magical journey for him since then. And of course, you should go and check him out and connect with him on Instagram. That's going to be ERIK PIRTALA _astro, which you're going to find that, and the website, which of course, this is the future project and the current project that you're working on astrophotography equipment. artstore.fi, which of course is going to be in the show notes below as well. So ERIK, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Awesome to be here.
Thank you. Happy to connect and happy to meet you finally. So Finland, man, great place, a beautiful place, as far as I've seen from from Google, at least for now. And I think many people did. A lot of people think about Santa Claus because it's during the Christmas right now almost. So that's where it's coming from, right? Finland. So look, so talking about your own personal journey, because you mean 11 years old, you got the first glance and first telescope view. And can you talk about the personal experience? I mean, now you're setting up an online store, I mean, doing all these different projects and have heavy equipment personally yourself. So can you talk about the personal journey of starting and how did you ended up here?
I was 11 or so when my parents bought me a tiny scope. I don't remember actually why I wanted it. It was just so exciting to spend time outside and look at the stars. So getting that first scope, even though it was very, very cheap and by my standards now pretty much a toy, but it was super addictive. I spent all the nights outside watching moon, planets, and so on. So great times.
Yeah.
And as I grew older, the teenage hit me. So I kind of began to have another interest. So the hobby was pretty much, well, I was on a break. But in 2018, I was hitting pretty difficult time in my life. So I kind of decided that I need some kind of a direction. And that's when I remembered my old lovely hobby. So that's when I decided to get a real scope. And I've always been admiring those fancy space photos you see online with this crazy color, crazy detail. I mean, I've always been super inspired by them. So I just decided this could be something I should try. So I started with DSLR camera and Newtonian scope. The pictures first, well, they weren't that great, obviously, but still, even getting so inspiring, so awesome, I just got instantly addicted to it. So it really took me inside the hobby so quickly. Obviously, like you said, Finland is great country, beautiful nature and so on. But when it comes to astro hobbies, it's, well, I can't imagine any place worse actually. The winters are cloudy. For now, it's been like, in the last 2 months, it's been clear for like 3 nights. And the summers are like, it's 4-month break. So the conditions here aren't that optimal. But we just have to accommodate to it and live with it.
Yeah.
But let's come back to my personal journey. After I got bored with my DSLR camera, I bought expensive filters and it just built on it. And now I have pretty much independent and automated setup 350 kilometers away. I have a sequence going on right now as we speak.
Nice,
so
nice.
that was a quick wrap of it.
Awesome. So, I mean, because the biggest question that I have for the people just like you, because you mentioned that, I mean, you've been 11 years old, you got away from that a little bit because I think it does happen for the people. Because when we
Yeah,
start
that's
grow,
common.
yeah, it's common. When we start to grow up, we have a little bit more responsibilities as adults, as younger people,
Yeah,
and we just forget about these kind of, we think about it as hobby or just fun thing to do while you're a small kid. And okay, I have, responsibilities, have to have a job and everything, like I should focus on that, on my career and things like that, which finding time for astrophotography or just
yeah,
being involved with projects,
exactly.
it's very important because
Yeah,
we are surrounded by this space. We just in this vast ocean of space which is expanding all the time.
yeah,
So we should pay attention to what's happening there because we're pale blue dots only, in that space.
mhm.
So what would you say for the people, that are watching, having this full-time job, having all the responsibilities, why people should get involved with, let's say, astrophotography?
From my point of view, I kind of feel like the life where you go to 9 to 5 job, come home tired, go to sleep, and it's like it can feel claustrophobic. So for me, these astro hobbies are like an escape route and a way to make myself feel free and connected to the outside world, because the, so easily the life can like hang on some just patterns, going to school, going to job, and really forgetting where we actually live and what we are connected to. So it's about much bigger things than your 9 to 5 job or your studies.
Yeah, exactly. And there is so many more different reasons. And again, probably for a lot of people, it will be kind of personal reason. So you still have to look for that personally. But yeah, what you're saying, it's the picture for life as in general is just so much
Yeah,
bigger. So, and space
yeah,
again is being one of those pictures that we should add to our life as well. So, okay, so for the people on making decision on buying an equipment, because again, you have a store right now online that, of course, you should go and check it out in the show notes below.
yeah.
So, and of course, we should talk about that as well, the process of setting up a shop and why people need a shop in Finland. But when it comes to personal use, I mean, what was your personal take on equipment? I mean, can you talk about where did you get advice on buying that equipment? How did you bought it? Where did you bought it? And what would you recommend for people also?
This is very fun that it's very friendly, very kind and helpful community. So I had friends in discussion forums, Instagram, or so on, very experienced hobbyists or photographers. So they have helped me a lot on my journey all the way from beginning to this point. So that has also been very inspiring, and I want to help be that kind of an experienced person who can share his knowledge and experiences forward to beginners. Uh, what did you ask about the equipment recommendations? I kind of missed that.
Yeah, it's basically for the people who are looking to get involved, So
Yeah.
can you talk about your personal
Okay.
equipment that you started once you got like 2018 when you bought your first equipment? Can you talk about that? And maybe you can give advice for the
Okay.
people what to buy also.
Usually it's tempting to when you see these market teleport and they look very fancy, but they are usually you get bored to them. I would say going with some Dobsonian like 8 or 10 inch Newton. It's slightly bigger and a bit heavier, but reason that I will go heavier, like I did, I mean, when you have that size and it's becomes much more versatile scope, so you won't get bored or run out of objects to look at. So I would skip those small market telescopes and go slightly heavier.
Mm.
But heavier doesn't mean difficult to use, because like Dobsonian mounts, they are very easy to use. So that would be my recommendation for a beginner.
So any particular brands that we're going to be looking for, or would you recommend? Any brand, any price range? Like, what will be a price range for the people in the beginning stages? You know, like how much? If we're talking about, let's say, the Sony 8 or 10 inch, like, what price are we talking about? Are we talking about thousands of euros, or are we talking about hundreds?
No, it's hundreds. If I remember correctly, 8-inch Dabsonias are like from 10-inch versions. They are. I don't think they are over 1,000. Having said that, 10-inch can be quite big for total beginner. So I think 8-inch would be safer.
So, and what will be your take? I mean, on again on the entire equipment, because some of the people that I had on a podcast, they are talking about, you know, not buying a telescope and maybe using a DSLR camera. So, you know, as a beginner, because, you know, if you're talking about hundreds of, you know, euros, maybe it's not that, you know, it's not that big of amount of money. Maybe, you know, for some people it could be, but look, so is there a beginning that you recommend? You know, just buy a scope and a mount, and what other pieces that they would need with that telescope? What other, is there filters? Is there go to mount star tracker? Like what setup are we talking about? Can you mention a few pieces from there too?
Well, if you want to get into astrophotography, it's not recommendable to jump straight into big scope and heavy tracking mount. Easiest way to start is just DSLR camera optics, and some kind of a small tracker, just to track the sky so you won't get trailed stars. I think Skywatcher Star Adventurer is the best option for this. It's very cheap also.
So, okay, so we're talking about those. So, what about the filters? Like, I don't know, maybe you can share what Bortle scale are you in currently where you live? What is the Bortle scale where you live?
Where I live is a big city. It's like Portal 9, but
Wow.
my remote observatory is in Portal 3.
Yeah,
So that's really the thing.
yeah.
But for a beginner, I can't recommend any filters, because if you start with DSLR, you won't get much advantage from, like for example, light pollution filters,
Mm,
unless you are shooting emission nebulas.
mm,
But emission nebulas aren't very optimal targets for DSLR.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
for the beginning, I wouldn't invest in filters.
Okay, so let's say if they're looking to upgrade, because you know, like personally myself, I live in a city. I guess majority of the people who are going to be watching or listening to this episode, they probably live in a city, some sort of a city,
Yeah,
smaller villages. So, and you know, there's all these light polluted areas. And again, somebody that I had yesterday on a podcast, they talked about, you know, let's say local councils, they changing, you know, from lamps, whatever that was, lamps that they use, kind of old school lamps now, to LED lamps, which
yeah,
is basically a completely different range when it comes to light. So, and those, you know, light filters that helps to tackle those problems doesn't work that good, you know, with LED
yeah,
lightning.
I know.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, what would you say for the people? Because look, maybe some people don't have a transportation or the how to travel to remote, you know, places like yourself with to observatories. So, can you talk about those filters? Like, does it help to tackle these problems, or like what will be the option for those people?
Where there are some light pollution filters that let the brightest emission lines, such as hydrogen alpha, oxygen 3, and so on. So those help with emission nebulas. But when it comes to galaxies, clusters, and reflection nebula, there aren't any filters you can use, because the if the filter blocks light pollution, it also blocks the signal from the target itself.
Mm,
So when it comes to photographing in heavily light polluted skies, the best option is to buy monochrome camera and narrowband filters, because, like you probably know, they block all the light except the special emission line. So they are very, very effective also in light polluted areas.
What about the post processing? You know, because that's the question I ask all the people, and they kind of, oh, okay, here we goes the post processing. You know, because look, everybody has a different choice when it comes to that, and of course there is all these softwares, and I guess Finland as being one of those countries, which I think you guys are quite innovating. You know, your kind of entrepreneurship and business is talked about, as far as I heard.
Yeah,
It's something like
pretty much.
Netherlands. You know, there's a lot of great entrepreneurs and people, and probably software companies, which you probably heard about Topaz Labs, which is this AI based sharpening, image sharpening,
Yeah,
software. So maybe we
yeah,
can,
I've heard about it.
yeah, so maybe we can talk about that again from software standpoint, about image processing and stacking. What do you use personally, and what would you recommend for the beginners also?
I use PixInsight for pre-processing, which includes calibrating, registering, and stacking the images. Um, and I also use Photoshop just for like finishing the images and combining the color channels and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But well, those software, like they are very expensive, but there are also some free softwares that you can begin with, and that's more recommendable for a beginner. So for stacking, is I think the best software is Deep Sky Stacker. That's pretty common as
Mm-hmm.
far as I know. And for post processing, well, GIMP software is, I think it's the closest option to Photoshop, but I I don't have experience with that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of difficult question to answer because my point of view is so narrow because I have been using the same methods for the whole time I've been imaging. So
Yeah. And when does it make sense for you personally to upgrade the equipment or upgrade the software or look for additional softwares? Because there's just so much that you can squeeze from an equipment if it's hundreds, euros or dollars, and when it's a couple thousand of dollars. I mean, we're
yeah,
talking about different equipment, and of course, for somebody who's looking to get started, maybe the best way is to start with a couple of hundreds of equipment, because buying better equipment doesn't mean that the work is going to be better, because it all depends on you as astrophotographer, right? Having these skills to
yeah.
produce the work. But when does it make sense for you personally say, okay, listen, I need to make an upgrade? And what are you looking for when you're making those upgrades?
Upgrade pretty much. It depends what do you want. What do you want to image? Of course, by investing in like for example more sensitive camera, more better optics to produce sharper image. There are so many factors. Like for example, if you like I have the biggest link in my setup is the scope. It doesn't produce very sharp image. So obviously the next step would be getting a quality apochromatic reflector or so on. Depends on what you want.
So I wanted to ask about choosing what to shoot, because again, some people are favoring nebulous and
Yeah,
solar and planetary and just moon and different things. So how do you go about making that decision of, okay, I'm gonna shoot only nebulous because it looks great and whatever, but maybe at some point you're gonna find out, oh, I don't want to do that anymore, and you have to buy, like, I want to capture sun right now, and that's, we're talking about different equipment that you need to buy, from
yeah.
scope to probably mount is going to be just the same. But how do you make your decisions when it comes to, okay, I'm just going to do this one thing?
Well, it's just personal preferences, and of course, when you are good at something, you like doing it. For example, I have take photos of dozens of nebulas. I like doing it because I'm good at it, but I have never photographed sun, so that's another thing. So if I was to buy a solar scope, I would have to buy a different solar scope because I can't use my current setup
Yeah.
for photographing sun, for example.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. So again, personal preference. Yeah. So everybody has to find what they want to do, right? So if they're gonna go to
Yeah,
your Instagram, they're gonna find something else, and probably, at least my personal advice would be, when it comes to making those decisions, if who are considering starting astrophotography, if you will go to a bunch of different people accounts, let's say on Instagram, because probably that's the quickest way to see their work. you know.
Yeah.
And if you scroll through and see, okay, so one person is just focusing on this thing, on that thing, and if you just compare and think, okay, so I kind of like that thing, I kind of like the nebulous, and probably, you know, I imagine I can print some pictures for myself or maybe sell those, and you know, it seems really cool, and I like the exposure of it, I like the gas and the dust, you know, so here you go. So maybe that's the answer. So I would love again to talk about your personal shop, because I asked you that question when we started, because I think it's very
Yeah.
awesome again what you guys are doing, and personally you putting all the attention and focus from what you said, from the problems, personal life, you focusing on your personal hobby, and you helping other people to get started in astrophotography, which is the best thing ever, you know. So that's great. So
Yeah, it feels good.
can you talk about how you decided to come up with this shop, and why have you decided to do this?
Well, it was actually my friend's idea. He has very great network with, the different companies and all over the Europe and USA. He's a great friend of mine and he loves my work. So that's where he kind of found me and took me as an assistant, I would say. So I have been assisting with, like, adding products to the site and handling the orders and so on. So the main inspiration for this obviously was the lack of the shop in Finland. There are only some very minor scale shops, but nothing you could really call a competitive shop. So that's what we want to be. We want to, like, fill that hole that there is currently, and we want to,
Yeah.
offer the customer service in our language, which is very important for some people, especially elder people.
Yeah.
We want, yeah, we want to, contribute to this community by not just being a salesman, but to also help with the products we sell and, you know,
Got it. Got it. So what would you say again for the, you know, like what, so how far are you planning to branch out? Because are you going to continue to focus just on Finland, or maybe some neighborhood countries as well? Are you going to go worldwide? Like, what do you have these conversations with your, again, with your partner or
yeah,
boss, like how we kind of call it? But so what's the plan for you guys personally?
yeah, we have talked about lot about, expanding the business overseas. But the problem is, especially with US and Middle Europe, is that there are so many big and well-known companies. So it's pretty difficult to battle against them. But we were thinking that first logical step after Finland would be the Nordic countries, Sweden, Norway, Russia, maybe the Baltic countries as well, because I don't think we can compete with, for example, I can't tell the company names, but some big British or German shops, because of the logistics. We are far in the north. That's a big factor too. But when it comes to Nordic countries, I think that could be a great business area.
Well, again, so I'm on the same page with you guys. So I do believe, again, there could be some problems with shipping and, again, deliveries and stuff like that. But look, if other companies are doing it, which I'm sure, you know, Mead Instruments or OPT, or when we talk about these big brands that kind of selling the equipment and already doing it, I'm sure that you can figure this out also. You know, because I'm sure if you're going to order something from OPT right now, they will be able to deliver you where you live right now. And if you live, let's say, in remote area as well, maybe, you know, Amazon drone is going to deliver that to your door. I mean, it's, look, it's not that difficult as we think sometimes, you know, but it's,
Yeah.
of course, it requires for us to pull resources and pull thoughts and ideas. Okay, how we can execute on that, which I'm sure you can pull.
Mm,
You can pull this off, guys.
yeah.
So, so again, what is the personal, like, what is the personal thought and on future projects? Because again, looking at your Instagram, I mean, you accomplished some great work personally. So what
Thank
are
you.
the, I mean, thank you, because you're putting all this hour and time on work. So what about some future projects? Because now we're people looking towards, you know, some great stuff in astronomy. So is there anything that you're going to be focused on in particularly in the near future also?
Well, we have this business which is called Astro Art, like we mentioned. It's the online shop is only one part of it. We are planning on organizing courses, like, handling telescopes and processing images. So that's something I feel I could have great role in, because I do have some quite good experience with these things already. So that comes to the fact that I really want to give back to this community after receiving so much. Even it was a service that costs money, but I still want to do it because it feels great to help people and get started with this awesome hobby. I want to produce the same feeling of getting success and improving your pictures. I mean, it feels great. So I want to help other people with that.
Awesome. So what would you say to the beginner people right now who are considering to get started in astrophotography? I mean, because you're being 23, even though you started like 2018, when you mentioned seriously bought a serious kind of equipment, a couple of years ago, but look, you're putting out some great, work at the same time. So what would you say to the people in the beginning stages with all the information that you know currently? Which would you give advice, let's say, to your personal self when you started?
Never too late to start. It doesn't matter if you are 15 years old, if you are an elderly person, it doesn't matter. This is a hobby for everyone, and that anyone can take on and explore our space and universe around us. It's really something that anyone can do if you just have the passion for it.
Yeah, it all comes
You
down to
shouldn't
that.
think too much. Yeah, you shouldn't think the cost too much, because basically all you need is going to the dark side. You don't even need telescope or binocular. You can do some great viewing just with your bare eyes. And you see all these great pictures. You shouldn't expect to see these things immediately, because they are the goal eventually, but there are many steps towards that. So you shouldn't skip those steps, but you should enjoy the journey.
Got it. Awesome. So of course, like you mentioned, the courses that you guys are working on. So the steps would be probably educating yourself about what does it take to get involved, kind of getting to know the equipment. And again, look, Eric himself, I'm sure he would be available for you guys who are watching or listening to episodes. If you go and get in contact with him personally on Instagram, because that's how we hooked up. We was like, came across your work. I was like, man, we need to do something, I need to bring you on. And, he's available. This man is available, and he has a store that he runs, well, again, with your friend / business partner. So we have that. So I'm sure you're knowledgeable about the equipment. So look, you should get in contact with Eric and ask those questions. Like, what equipment should I buy? And again, you have courses available. And because I say that all the time myself, because I think astrophotography is quite steep learning curve. There's a lot of information. So what would you say for the people also? Because I mean, there's a lot of free content available, courses available, but is there some sort of a books or maybe some different resources of information that you would recommend people to educate themselves about astrophotography?
Well, the problem with, the internet era is that there's so much information. It's easy to find, but the problem is that there are so many points of view and so many different experience level from the people, so it can be confusing. I think the best way to get started is to join your local astronomy club or hook up with some photographers why not in Instagram or so on, because they are happy to help you, and you will get, very specific advices. You don't have to search dozens of different forums to look what you want to find.
Got it. So what would you recommend for the people, who are watching? Hopefully there is somebody watching in Finland also at the same time. So is there any like Finnish, astrophotography big clubs in Finland, or maybe some forums in Finland, or maybe, outside of Finland also could be a great place for astrophotographers?
When in Finland we have great situation. Pretty much every major town has its own active club and observatory. They organize courses and stargazing nights and so on. So here we have great community and great situation overall, despite the cloudy weather. That's another thing. And I think discussion forums are a great place too, because you can ask stupid questions. It doesn't matter if it has been asked 1,000 times before. You can just go and ask what you want to know.
Yeah.
I would recommend those.
Got it. So any forums that you would like to people to go to, there is this cloudy skies, cloudy nights, and different forums. So any forums that comes to your mind, you would recommend for people?
Yeah, I use Cloudy Nights and Stargazers Lounge.
Mm.
I do not have any experience from others, and I'm mostly focused on the forum in Finland.
Got it. Okay, makes sense. Okay. So talking, because I asked you that before we started, that was like, how comfortable are you talking about space projects and what's happening in space industries across the boards? Because there's a lot happening right now, right? We have Elon Musk kind of frontier, thinking about traveling to Mars and colonizing Mars. And we're talking about next year moon mission and creating moon base. I mean, it looks like we're doing some stuff which is going to be groundbreaking, and
Yeah,
we talking about some great scientific discoveries along the way with that also. So when it comes to that, I mean, is there some maybe future projects that you're personally looking forward to of let's say space agencies or private industry, somebody who is a company, and what's happening with that in Finland also? I mean, do you have a space agency, or what is the situation?
we don't have any space agency here in Finland. It's just too small and poor country for that. But I'm mostly looking forward towards space tourism and especially Mars projects, because those are very interesting. I mean, it feels like this is the era right before some huge breakthroughs. So I'm excited about all these things.
Got it. So what do you say like Finland is? Do you think Finland is? I mean, is Finland launching satellites? Maybe they're using different country for that. Let's say a UK or somebody else who has the launch capabilities to launch satellites or something. So is Finland getting involved right now in some future projects when it comes to, let's say, I don't know, satellites, cube satellites, or launching something into space? Are they planning onto something?
I think some Finnish tech companies have had like their parts in satellites, and at least satellites. I'm not sure about any like lunar modules, but we are like great country when it comes to tech innovations and tech companies.
So if we're talking about tech, do you see something from technological perspective? It could be hardware, software that you see coming up that's related to space industry also.
Nothing comes in my mind right now.
That's no problem. We need to Google. We need to Google and find, because I'm sure
Yeah,
there's something. I'm sure there's something happening in Finland, And of
yeah,
course,
I'm sure.
maybe, yeah, maybe it's just not on a global scale right now, and maybe that's why people don't know. Maybe it's still. You probably seen those photos where you see like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and I think it was Jeff Bezos, and it shows like three pictures and where it started, and it shows garage, dormitory,
Yeah,
Facebook, and it's probably
yeah,
at this level right now, but I'm sure it's going to get global, because Finland is definitely a great country when it comes to those you
yeah.
mentioned
That's
technological
that's
innovations.
true.
Yeah. So I mean, okay. So what will be your kind of personal, legacy? Because I love asking that question, to the people who come to this on a podcast. I mean, you're still being young, but still at the same time, we're talking about building a company right now, astrophotography, astrophotography equipment, and being involved yourself personally. So like, where do you want to go with this? What is the personal legacy or footprint, or what do you want to leave behind you also?
I want to inspire people. I want to share the same feeling I have been getting from this hobby. I've been receiving so much from the community, and when it comes to legacy, I want to show that anyone can do this. Anyone can improve as long as they have the passion and the heart for it, obviously.
Yeah.
And I don't like thinking it in the way that I turn my hobby into my job. I just like what I do, and as long as I enjoy it, it's not a job or anything. It's just, I wouldn't even call it hobby. It's like a way of life.
Yeah, love it. That's the best way to say it, and I say that all the time. And it has to become
Yeah,
that. It has to become that. But at the
yeah,
same time, I do understand. Like I said, pay the bills, and they have all the responsibilities and all of that on top of their heads, and it's like, oh my god, it's COVID and all these economical problems. And I do understand it's hard for us to make a way of living with the stuff that don't makes us money right now. And there should be something, a way that it should produce money at some point. And again, astrophotographers, they sell, again, let's say courses on how to get started in astrophotography, or they send the prints, or give some sort of device. I don't know, multiple ways, because you need to live. But the main driver is not that. They're not looking to make they're not looking to make the money first. Of course, they're looking to survive, then they're looking to buy their own personal equipment, which for that it needs money. But they're looking to help other people, to get started. That's the main goal for 99.9 people, in this community.
Yeah, it's not about money, because these experiences are something you can't measure in dollars or euros.
Yes, because look, once we're going to go to, and we have these conversations with some people on a podcast about colonizing Mars, and they said, look, what's going to happen when people are going to be on Mars? How are you going to get paid? Mars dollars, euros, pounds, rubles, don't matter.
Yeah.
Because what you're going to buy with it, unless Amazon is going to come after you after a month when you're going to land in Mars, and maybe they're going to try to sell you something, Netflix subscription or something, I don't know. But unless that's going to be there, I mean, where are you going to use the money? That's where the money don't loses its value, because there's other things that are important to life also. And astrophotography and space is being definitely a big part of that. So, okay. So again, Eric, want to say a big thank you again for coming over today, for sharing your journey, passion,
Thank you.
And why and how people should get involved. I mean, it's you're a great guy, and people should connect with you, again, personally, as I mentioned. So go and look for that Instagram link and website to their store, which, as far as I've seen, I mean, they have a lot of different stuff. So I don't know if you can does it have an English kind of button where it translates everything to English, or it's still Finnish? Everything's Finnish.
Currently, it's only in Finnish, but in couple of months we will start translating it in English also. But it's only in Finnish right now.
Here you go. That's no problem.
But
Google.
Now it's good for
Google Translate.
It's good to share the knowledge about our.
That's good. So again, go on.
Yeah, thank you. This was great.
Yeah, so
great discussion.
Go in contact with Eric, and again, ask all these questions about the equipment, getting started, editing softwares, anything that you want, because again, we left a bunch on the table, and there's a lot of information when it comes to getting started. So make sure to do that. And the last thing that, guys, I want to ask you, if you share this episode with your friends, so it could be any friend, just pick one and send it over to them, and show them, look, there is this astrophotography hobby, which maybe they never came across about before. Maybe they heard about something or seen, in encyclopedias. They've seen these amazing photos of the galaxy on nebula and, planetary photos and everything. So look, there's actually a way for them to do that from their backyard, So make sure to go and pass this episode along. And as always, guys, I'll see you next time. And don't forget, keep exploring.